In the vast expanse of Texas, a somber reality lingers. Since 1982, 591 individuals have met their fate through execution, with Texas leading the grim tally. Presently, 174 souls await their destiny on Texas's death row, among them, 7 women. Each of these women carries a unique tale, a narrative etched with sorrow and gravity. Their paths converged at the O'Daniel facility in Gatesville, Texas, where time lingers, drawn out by appeals that stretch across decades. When the final hour arrives, these women will be escorted to the walls in Huntsville, where their sentences will reach their conclusion through lethal injection. Here are brief glimpses into the lives of these 7 women, their journeys intertwined with the unforgiving hand of fate. June 30, 1993. Convicted of the murder of Marilyn Sage Marr in Houston. Shepard and co-defendant James Dickerson spotted Marr walking to her apartment. They tackled her inside the apartment, and while she begged for her life, slashed her throat with knives 5 times. They wrapped her head in a plastic bag and struck her in the head with a 10-pound statue. Shepard and Dickerson fled in Marr's 1993 Mazda 626, which was later recovered in Bay City. Shepard's co-defendant, James Dickerson, passed away due to AIDS-related complications while in prison. Shepard was sentenced to death on March 3, 1995, and remains incarcerated in the O'Daniel unit of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in Gatesville, Texas. No execution date has been set. Convicted in June 1996 of the murder of her 5-year-old son, Damon, inside the family's suburban Dallas home. Damon and his 6-year-old brother, Devin, were stabbed to death while they slept with their mother in the downstairs family room. Routier's husband, Darren, and infant son, Drake, slept through the attack in an upstairs bedroom and were unharmed. Routier, who also suffered stab wounds that police claimed were self-inflicted, testified that she too slept through the attack and awoke to see the back of a man fleeing the residence. Prosecutors argued that Routier killed her children because they interfered with the lifestyle she wanted to live. She was arrested and charged with the murders after making inconsistent statements to police. Routier was sentenced to death on February 4, 1997, and currently resides in the O'Daniel unit of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in Gatesville, Texas. No execution date has been set. Brittany Marlowe Holberg, born January 1, 1973, was convicted of the November 1996 robbery, torture and murder of 80-year-old A.B. Towery Sr. in his southwest Amarillo home, and was sentenced to death by 251st State District Judge Patrick Pirtle. The victim had been stabbed nearly 60 times with such weapons as a paring knife, a butcher knife, a grapefruit knife, and a fork. He also suffered blunt trauma to the head from a hammer, and a foot-long lamp pole had been shoved more than 5 inches down his throat. Holberg was sentenced to death on March 27, 1998, and resides in the O'Daniel unit of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in Gatesville, Texas. No execution date has been set. Linda Anita Carty, born the 5th of October 1958, is a Haitian-American former schoolteacher who was sentenced to death in 2002 for the abduction and murder of 20-year-old Jonah Rodriguez in order to steal Rodriguez's newborn son. In May 2001, a group of men invaded the Houston apartment of a young woman named Jonah Rodriguez. They beat her partner and kidnapped Rodriguez and her newborn baby. At some point after that, Rodriguez was bound, gagged, and had a plastic bag put over her head. She was later found dead from suffocation, though the baby was later recovered unharmed. Carty had been telling people, namely her estranged husband, that she was pregnant and the baby was due May 16th. Carty was sentenced to death on February 21, 2002, and currently resides in the O.H. Daniel Unit of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in Gatesville, Texas. No execution date has been set. Melissa Elizabeth Lucio, born June 18, 1969, is the first woman of Latino descent to be sentenced to death in the U.S. state of Texas. She was convicted of capital murder after the death of her 2-year-old daughter, Mariah. Mariah Alvarez was born to Melissa Lucio and Robert Alvarez in September 2004. Mariah was Lucio's 12th child. Child Protective Services had previously investigated Lucio for allegations of child neglect, and they reported that Lucio's youngest children were often left in the care of their teenaged siblings. Lucio was addicted to cocaine and tested positive shortly after Mariah was born. This prompted authorities to place her children in foster care. 3 older children went to live in Houston with their father, and Lucio regained custody of the others in late 2006. On February 17, 2007, paramedics were called to the Lucio residence because 2-year-old Mariah was unresponsive and not breathing. The child was pronounced dead at a local hospital, according to the Cameron County District Attorney's Office. Mariah was found in her home with signs of abuse on her body, including marks on her back, missing patches of hair, and a fracture in her arm. According to Lucio, Mariah had sustained the injuries when she fell down a flight of stairs 2 days earlier. It was later determined that Mariah's arm had been broken to 7 weeks before her death, and an autopsy also showed a head injury and bruising of the kidneys, lungs, and spinal cord. Lucio was sentenced to death on August 12, 2008 and scheduled to die on April 27, 2022. She received a stay of execution on April 25, 2022, which remains in effect. Lucio resides in the O. Daniel Until of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in Gatesville, Texas. Kimberly Cargill, born November 30, 1966, was convicted of causing the asphyxiation of 39-year-old Cherry Walker in June 2010. Walker had grown up with a developmental disability which left her with the cognitive abilities of a 9. At her trial, prosecutors said Cargill was facing a child abuse investigation and that she had already lost custody of one of her 2 children. They argued she killed Walker to keep her from testifying at a custody hearing. Walker's body, found on the side of a road in Smith County, had been doused with lighter fluid and set on fire. An autopsy determined she was asphyxiated. Cargill testified that Walker had suffered a seizure and stopped breathing while she was driving Walker home, and that she panicked and didn't seek medical help. She said she set Walker's body on fire to eliminate any of her own DNA that may have been on the victim. Cargill was sentenced to death on June 7, 2012 and resides in the O. Daniel Until of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in Gatesville, Texas. Taylor Renee Parker, born December 8, 1992, was found guilty of the murders of Tegan Michelle Simmons Hancock and her newborn daughter Braxlyn Sage. Simmons Hancock's body was found October 9, 2020, at her home in New Boston, about 160 miles northeast of Dallas. Authorities say Simmons Hancock was stabbed and cut more than 100 times and had her skull crushed with a hammer in her New Boston, Texas home, before a scalpel was used to remove her unborn baby. Her 3-year-old daughter was at home when her mother was killed. Later that morning, Parker claimed she'd just given birth after being pulled over by a state trooper for speeding and driving erratically. The baby, Braxlyn Sage Hancock, was taken to a hospital in Oklahoma, where she was pronounced dead. In her opening statement, prosecutors told the Bowie County jury that Parker acted not because she wanted a baby but to keep from losing her boyfriend. Parker disguised herself to make her look pregnant for nearly 10 months, faked ultrasounds, had a gender reveal party and posted about her fake pregnancy on social media. While searching for a possible victim, Parker was sentenced to death on November 9, 2022 and remains in the O.H. Daniel Unit of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in Gatesville, Texas.